Good evening, good afternoon, sir.
Hi, how are you, Jijo? What a pleasure to see you.
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. How is COVID treating you?
I said, I hope I'm not late.
No. We still have time. We have 10 more minutes.
Great. Oh, well, all of us are doing our best, Jijo. I mean, you can imagine it's an extraordinary situation,
I know.
one of those things where there is no end in sight, and I hope you are okay in Dubai.
Correct. So you are in campus itself now?
No. Well, campus, there's nothing. I mean, we have moved online completely. So all of us are doing whatever we are doing from our respective places.
Okay.
I mean, it's as I said, this is just whoever thought of this to be like
I
this
know.
proportion.
So we'll start at 4. So we have 10 more minutes.
Good.
Okay.
So just to give you, I mean, nobody is hearing this conversation, right? What we are having.
They're actually hearing.
Okay.
There are
No,
40 points.
I have nothing to share in that sense. My point is that the technical aspects of the examination
Okay.
is something which you are the expert. I hope you will take that and things like that, right?
Sure. Okay.
That's all.
Uh,
I mean, I'm very happy that I can. Do we have a Q&A session?
So there are the participants are able to chat with us asking questions. Basically, what I've done is I've collected a lot of questions from the beginning itself.
Oh, excellent. So how
So
much time you maybe I only speak for 20 minutes and then we do a 40-minute Q&A. Would that be good, or you want me to speak more? I can do whatever you want.
so basically what I've done is I've got about the 15-20 questions I want to ask you, hmm,
Oh, excellent.
uh, on behalf of the students
So
and
how long
parents.
do you want me to speak? You tell me.
So I think what we can do is probably is that if there's anything specific you want to address in the beginning, then we can start with that
Ah.
for about 10-15 minutes. I think the question almost covers everything.
Oh, then
Uh,
I will make it even lesser, as you rightly said. I
uh,
will briefly introduce the framework of this whole idea of LSAT exam, a bit of Jindal. Maybe I
okay.
take less than 10 minutes, and
Sure,
we
sure.
take the as many questions, and then towards the end we can make some closing remarks.
So that sounds great. Yeah.
Okay, good. That makes sense because then people can ask as many questions.
So there are some hot questions. They have quite a few people. I'll share that. Then we can address those as
No problem. I have no hesitation to answer any questions they have,
well. Okay. Sure.
so long as they are not defamatory or something.
Of course not. So when I said hot question, I meant question asked by many of them. I did not say.
Yeah.
Oh,
No, I know, and I can ask any. I mean, see, we have to help them because a lot of uncertainty is prevailing now.
correct.
Nobody can be sure about anything,
Hmm.
so they also should know. Like tomorrow, I'm hosting a colloquium where I have
Okay.
the UGC vice chairman,
Okay.
vice chancellor of Delhi University,
Okay.
the chairman of NAC,
Okay.
and the vice chancellor of Shiv Nadar University, all together and also the secretary general of the Association of Indian Universities. So we are going to talk about the future of higher education and future of universities during and post COVID. So, and in preparation to that, we were preparing a concept note, and also we realized that so many things right now, this moment,
Right.
all everybody involved in this is working in the realm of uncertainty. So one can never be sure about what you are saying. I mean, that's a very difficult thing to. So
Right.
if you say something so confident, you don't know. I mean, things change. So I think we all of us have to be. This is probably for many of us who are not used to uncertainty. This is
Right.
a very important moment.
Right. So that's same case with us as well
I
in
can
terms of
imagine.
in terms of preparing the students and everything. Uh, so yes, now everything is gone. So all the delivery is happening online. Uh, so that's a move that has happened. Everybody's getting used to this platform and this new normal that has hit us, kind of a situation.
Yeah,
So we'll start another the 5 minutes. So I'll just mute myself and I'll join back in 5 minutes. Is that okay? Hmm?
sure.
Yeah. So good afternoon to all of you. Uh, I hope I'm audible and there is no issues. So it's for 4 o'clock and we'll get things started. So we'll wait for probably a couple of minutes for more people to join in. So we should get started in another minute or so. Yeah. Good evening to all of you, Abhigyan and Anandita, Ansh, Dev, Maipal, Ananya. Okay. Good evening. I hope life is going good. Life is okay. Not frustrated. Yeah. So we will have Q&A. Yes, yes, we'll have. So what I'll do is that we have not kind of activated the Q&A box, but obviously you can ask questions in the chat box itself. So I'll pick that up and this one. Yeah. So I've basically got questions from a lot of you already. So I've captured the question. So I'm sure that most of your questions will get answered. If you feel that at the end of the lesson the questions are not answered, then we'll take that up surely. Uh, so we'll just wait. Uh, we'll soon start soon. My fan makes a lot of noise here. So if you switch on the fan, then the noise will be here. So no fan in this amazing weather. So that's why a lot of sweating happening. Uh, just give me a sec.
Hey, sorry.
Yeah, yeah. So we are back.
Yes, sorry.
As so we'll get things started. Hmm? So thank you all of you for joining in. Uh, let me. We have a wonderful 1 hour, hopefully, which will be very useful for all of you. I have with me the founding vice chancellor of the OP Jindal Global University and the dean of Jindal Global Law School, Professor Dr. C. Rajkumar. And it's been a tradition that he comes to Bombay every year to speak to uh, all of us. Unfortunately, that cannot happen this year, Raj. So we are here. We are. So what I'll do is so the format is that I've asked quite a few questions from you guys. I've got quite a few questions. So we'll address all those questions. We will look at questions regarding Jindal Global Law School, and secondly about the LSAT India as an exam. Now for LSAT India exam, so for the technical questions, some of them I might pick up. So, but from what I want from Professor Raj is the fact that he has been looking at the test at least for the last 10 years from since the inception. So I'm sure that his insights will be very useful. And welcome, sir. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here. I miss the opportunity of being in Mumbai and to meet your wonderful and thoughtful students in person. But we are, of course, living in an extraordinary time, and all of us are trying to do our best. And I can imagine the anxiety in the minds of many of our students who are here. So I'm here to help and advise and suggest and support. So yeah, I'm at your disposal.
Sure. So let me just so I've captured some questions here. So what we'll do is we'll first start with uh, questions about Jindal Global Law School, and we'll pick up some question of LSAT India. There is, in fact, Professor Raj, about I think about half an hour ago, the Symbiosis Law Admission Test SLAT has come off the date of 19th of July as their test date, and that kind of clashes, I think, with LSAT India test date. So I don't know whether you can throw some light on that, whether there's any change in things. That's something that we'll address in the second half. So what I wanted to start off with the Jindal Global Law School. I put the question in four brackets. One is about the school. There were some questions that came. And the second is about the program itself, the prospects and the admissions. And all the fire is those many students had those questions. So I'll start with the first questions to you, which is that the QS ranking, and I believe in the top, you are among the two schools in India, I believe, in the top 200 with the National Law University. And the question, this is not a question that came from me, question from a student is that, how did you manage to be
Yeah,
there?
I'm happy to talk to you about it.
Yeah,
So, shall I?
yeah, sure.
Okay, good. As some of you might know, the QS, there are three basically major rankings in the world. One is called the Shanghai Jiatong rankings. Other is the Times Higher Education, the QS. And the QS is one of the most respected and reputed global rankings organizations based out of London. Every year they produce a total of 4 different rankings. One is what is known as the QS World University Rankings, and the other is the QS BRICS rankings, which is the Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa universities. And then the third is the QS Asia rankings, which is around the Asian countries, some 50 plus countries in it, and the universities there are ranked. And the fourth is the QS World University Rankings by subject. And there in law, as you know, on 4th of March this year, when QS World University Rankings released the law rankings, quite remarkably, we became India's #1 law school. In fact, it's quite interesting because they only rank 300 law schools in the world. Out of the 10,000 plus law schools, there are 40,000 universities, but approximately 10,000 plus law schools in the world, and of which only 300 get ranked. And never before any Indian law school has ever been able to break into the top 300. There are only 300 law schools, right? It's a very intense competition. And this year, quite remarkably for India, out of the 1,600 Indian law schools, only 2 law schools could break into these rankings. They are the Jindal Global Law School, which is ranked 101 to 150, and the National Law School of India, University Bangalore, which is 151 to 200, making Jindal Global Law School India's #1 law school. And in some ways, to answer your question, Jijo, it's really a fitting tribute for our faculty, our students, and all the work that has happened in the last over 10 years. If you ask me, did we expect? Of course not. We did our work. It's not one of those things where it's not what, like an advertising model of rankings as we are generally used to in India. This is a serious independent organization which produces these rankings on the basis of pre-established transparent criteria. You may or may not like the criteria. They value research, they value internationalization, they value the reputation gained by those variables. And if you are, and now actually this has acquired legitimacy in credibility in India, because the government of India has also used this rankings for the Institute of Eminence process. As you know, last year we were declared as one of the 8 Indian private universities and 10 public universities to be declared as an Institute of Eminence. And there also the criteria is in relation to international rankings.
Wonderful. I think it's I've closely seen your school start from the year 2009 with, I believe, what, 50 students, was it?
We have 100 students, 100.
100 students, and to the stature, it's just remarkable. So the which is, thank you. I'll just I'll keep toggling between my screen and the camera. Okay, so just to give that. The second question is probably linked. I think that this question, high fees, this link, and probably linked to even ROI. Okay, and
Sure.
this question, let me put it probably bluntly as possible. Okay,
Correct.
so which is on behalf of my students, on behalf of my parents. One of the at least many of them have this concern is the fact that the fees of Jindal Global Law School compared to other the law schools are on the higher side. Okay. The question was question. I don't know whether you would want to take that question like that. Question was, is that why is the fee high? That's one question, and therefore a lot of people are interested in the option of scholarship, and if you can give a detail. About various scholarship options that is available and what the process is, and that'll be very useful for the students, Professor Raj.
Thank you very much. I think the first and foremost is that I want to address the fee issue. It's very important for our students to know that, good institutions anywhere in the world, the cost of running them is high. So, for example, Harvard Law School charges something like $75,000 per annum. If you look at its, Jijo, you are better in mathematics. So let's say if $1 is, I don't know, 75 rupees or something, if you can tell us the rupee rate, that will be useful for our students.
That'll be lot, right? Huh? Uh,
It's, so you can imagine the cost of it is, $10,000 is something like
70 lakhs.
Yeah, the total. No, well, yeah, you're right. I mean, it's more like the cost will be 50 plus lakhs of rupees per annum. So what I'm trying to say is that anything that is good has a cost involved. One can discuss about who takes the cost. In public universities in India, this cost is taken by the state and the taxpayers. In private universities in India, it's mostly to a large extent, let's say, taken by the benefactor. So we are actually very fortunate that the cost that we charge, or the fee that we charge, is hugely subsidized because of a benefactor. And if you simply put the actual cost of what we are offering for our students in terms of our physical infrastructure, our operational expenditure, our cost of faculty, our environment that we provide to our students, it is obviously way too expensive, and it will not be sustainable for any Indian student to actually afford. That is why, despite the fact that the quality of education and the opportunities and the experience and the ecosystem that we offer is comparable to the best in the world, we end up offering it at a much lesser price. Having said that, I recognize that it may still not be affordable for a lot of students, and that's me actually. I come from a middle class family in India. My father is a professor, mother is a doctor. I studied in Oxford University as a Rhodes Scholar. I went to Harvard Law School. I didn't spend $1 there. I simply couldn't have afforded. I could go to Oxford and Harvard because I got 100% scholarships. So I can sympathize with that thinking. So what I want to first you to know is that we are not expensive. We
Okay.
are actually hugely subsidized for what we are offering. If you have air-conditioned classrooms, it is expensive. If you have air-conditioned rooms, it is expensive. So in some ways, somebody has to bear the cost, but we don't, transfer the cost, all costs to the students. We subsidize it. Not only, I'm not even coming into scholarship. Even the tuition fee that we charge is actually subsidized. you're going to be responsible lawyers in the future. How do you calculate fee? The fee is actually calculated by a certain percentage of what the overall cost when it comes to running it, right? And if you start putting the cost for running it, we need to charge at least 3 times. I mean, Indian School of Business Hyderabad, which is occasionally compared to us, charges over 25 lakhs of rupees per annum. That is what it takes to run an operation of that kind. But having said that, we are very conscious that we need to make our education accessible, affordable for people who can't afford it. And that is why we have tried to pitch it at where it is. Conscious of the fact that it is still expensive for some, we have brought out the scholarship framework, which will enable a lot more students to afford education at JGU.
Wonderful. I think to add to that thought, I think the cost is because of a comparison that is being made with something else. So if I were to look at my own school, I passed out from IIM Calcutta. During my time, the fees were probably 10,000 and stuff.
Right.
About 6 7 years ago, the fees was around about 8 years ago, fees were around the 1 lakh 2 lakh ish. Now it is about 20 lakhs. So if you actually look at a 2 year program, management program in India, it's about 20 lakh because the cost is simply not, it's
Correct.
impossible to run it. So when I look at the kind of opportunity the lawyers have in the future from a long term perspective, instead of actually looking at it as a cost, I think it's a far better way to look at it as an investment.
And
Uh,
Gejo, on that point, Gejo, I should tell you this return on investment model that you've also put in your
hmm,
slide.
hmm,
It's a very important thing that our viewers and our law aspirants and parents should know. The business school ROI model, I'm sorry, it is a bit vulgar, where the entire ROI is measured on the next job that you get soon after you graduate. But a fair ROI in relation to legal education in particular, but also most of good quality undergrad education is the next 55 to 60 years of your life. It is not what you end up doing the next year. Whatever I've studied in my undergrad and my lawyers, he's going to be the foundation for me and actually will help me all through my life. And so the possibility to achieve that highest levels of excellence through that learning that you've received in your years of law school education is what you have for your future. And that's why if you really want to put ROI, put a 55-year ROI, and then you will know what the answer is.
so I think to be fair, even business school would agree with that sentiment of yours.
I'm
Okay.
asking for that.
It's just that as a student, to look at a year of 50 FI is very difficult.
Yeah.
They look at the immediate placements, which comes to that question, and this is what the hottest question is
Sure.
that they just want to know the details of the various scholarship that is available. If you can elaborate on that, it'll be wonderful. I think.
Sure, sure. So I think one of the things that we have done in scholarship is we have made the scholarship policy very transparent. The scholarship is, first of all, not based on whether you have done some long jump or high jump or some athletic competition. It is not based on in anything else that you've got 99% in your 12th standard. Everything boils down to LSAT India performance. So the details I will ask Professor Anand Prakash Mishra, who is the Director of Law School Admissions, to share a, a written framework of the policy. But if I were a student who's watching here, I will say focus on LSAT India. All your focus should be if your performance in your LSAT India, and I cannot tell you the percentile on this because quite remarkably, just to give you a perspective why it's become so competitive is that in the first year, when we admitted 100 plus students, there were 300 to 400 LSAT takers. Now we have 8,000 plus, and this year maybe 10,000. And our seats have increased since that time. We admit 600 students, but still 10,000 people. So that's a huge, I can understand many of you are aspiring in CLAT and ILET and other places. The number may be more, but the number of law schools which are using that is also more. But when it comes to LSAT India, most all students who take LSAT India are aspirants of Jindal, and the competition definitely is the case here. But if you are an aspiring student in scholarship, I would strongly encourage you to focus on your LSAT India performance. And if you are in that range, and that's what Anand Prakash Mishra will share with you, you should have a good shot at it.
Great. And if I were to ask you this, what was the percentile maybe last year, rough percentile where or
Scholarships are available.
yeah.
There were scholarship for students above 97 percentile, if I remember correctly. But
Okay.
again, Anand will give you this data, and I'm going to ask him to send it to you right away.
Sure, sure, sure. So, uh, anyway, Anand Mishra is already interacting with the students on the chat box, so he'll
Yes.
help her. So, quick question: how many seats? I believe this year, how many seats for the two
Our seats
programs?
have not changed. We have 600 seats. We have 10 sections of students in the 5-year law program. And I suppose most of the people who are listening to this are aspirants or high school students wanting to enter the 5-year law program. We, of course, have 4 sections in our 3-year LB program as well.
Okay. So, one more question: this is a this scholarship is a merit come means, right? So
That's
it's a
exactly
mean.
right.
Hmm.
That's it. So we don't plan to give scholarships to very rich people. The idea is that
Okay.
you have to be good in terms of your academic merit, but you also have an income criteria. Again, Anand will inform that income criteria also. Again, transparent on the base of the tax submissions that has been made by your family, your parents, and we use that as a criteria and use that test.
How rich are we talking?
I think it's around, if your income is over 30 lakhs or something, then you are not eligible, you know.
So basically, your my understanding is that the whole objective of the scholarship is to provide opportunity for those students who require it and are good,
Sell it.
and so somebody with a family income way above a certain
Yeah.
limit may not need require it.
So,
Okay.
so what we've done is, and it's a very important question, Jijo, because we've had in the past, I will be very candid with you, some extremely bright students
Right.
who also happen to be very rich. And and I've had students coming and telling me that, listen, my parents are rich, but I deserve this. And what we ended up doing, and I think it's a very fair way of doing it, is that because the student earned that scholarship for
Okay.
his or her quality, we give the certificate. So they can actually put it in their bio and their CV and all of that. We don't give the money, but we give the certificate.
Okay. And another the quick question is then what's a fee structure is there something you can share? I think there is a question.
Sure. I would not normally keep this data handy for me, but I think I can
So
easily give that to you. No, I can. I have it here. For
okay.
our 5-year program, our tuition fee is rupees 5,75,000 is the
Hmm.
tuition fee, and for all our programs, the food, accommodation, and laundry charges is 2,40,000 per annum. That's static, but
Okay.
for all schools, all programs, because we have different programs where the tuition fee varies, but the food, accommodation, laundry will remain the same. And in this case, the tuition fee is rupees 5,75,000 per annum.
Perfect. And to reiterate amount of 5.75 plus 2 lakhs is what I get a sense. Yeah.
Well, exactly 2,40,000. Yeah,
2 lakh 40. So, and to reiterate, the one question I can see is, could you reiterate the income cutoff? It's 30 lakhs is what I heard.
correct.
Okay. So 30 lakhs family income. So that would be a
Correct.
parent's income to be 30 lakhs.
Yes, yes.
I'm assuming
The
that you don't.
taxable income,
Uh,
that's what we go by. Yeah.
okay. Assuming that, of course, you guys don't have an income or you guys won't have.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so so I think those things got addressed. So we addressed that. So for scholarship, let me write it here. For all those who want to look at scholarship, I think that you should have an LSAT India score is the most important thing. Last year this was approximately about 97 percentile. That was on a base of 8,000. Given the fact that there were probably 10,000 and there's 97%, that may go to about 98, 98.5 ish, because that is probably what that is. This is this the next question.
Anand has given a detailed in the chat box. He has given some more details, I suppose.
Sure, sure, sure. So just watch the chat box, and I'll also pick the details from Anand and share it with you as well.
Yeah.
So another question. This is more in terms of the parents of Bombay, right, Raj? Okay, so for example, they have the child probably is about 17 years of age, and they have to send this child to five years to some place, which is almost one third of the life that they spent so far with them. And one concern that most of us has is that this I've not seen this concern with probably people in north, but I think from here, and many of the parents saying that, is the safety concerns that people have. So is there
All right,
anything?
I'll answer that head on.
Uh,
In fact, it's a quite a learning experience for us. In the first few years of our evolution, I would say first 4 to 5 years, we hardly had students from Bombay, and I would give talks in you know in Ambani International School and Cathedral and I think Bombay Scottish and so many other schools in Bombay, and counselors would tell me that most of our students end up going abroad, and they if they want to be here, they won't go out of Mumbai, and Delhi itself is a big deal, and Sonipat, I mean, come on, no question, it used to be very disheartening, and we were fine with that. We realized the problem, but believe it or not, every year now we get over 100 students or more from Bombay year on year for the last 5 years. It's dramatic transformation. We have a good number of students from these schools, Bombay Scottish, from Cathedral, from of course Ambani International, and many other schools. I'm not able to remember the names. And it's a dramatic, shift. And what ends up happening is Bombay people are very industrious also. So last couple of years now, what's happening is whenever these 100+ students end up coming, the Bombay parents have a meeting together to see them off. I mean, nothing to do with us. They themselves organize a gathering, and I've been so delighted to get those photographs and videos. So in a way, it's a huge turnaround. And I'll tell you why it has happened. First, I think people are conscious of good quality education and people are ready to go wherever. Second, I think people have also know how we operate as a university. It's a fully residential campus. We're mindful of that. So we do have rules and regulations that require campus safety as a paramount part of our experience. I have to say that some students don't like what I'm about to say, which is that there are lots of restrictions about students leaving, and parents have a role in that as well. So parents tend to be very happy with those rules. Students are not. But the reality is we are very conscious of how, particularly undergraduate students who come into campus in a fully residential environment, we think we need to take heightened, But so in some ways, all of that has percolated into people becoming aware of what we are doing. And I think that's why we've had a fantastic set of students right from your own, center in the past years to join us. So I think, but having said that, I will be very candid with all the parents here is that we have extensive rules and regulations for safety, security, and well-being, including access and all of that. We have perimeter of the campus protected. We have CCTV cameras. We have, 24/7 guards and all kinds of things. But I want to tell the parents here, if a determined student is out there to break all laws, rules, and regulations, is prepared to jump out of the campus and do things that will potentially hurt him or her, no force on earth, including us, we can stop it.
That actually true. I've gone to IIT. I've gone to IIM.
Right.
Okay, so I can look at that sentiment in terms of human. I think that rumor that I've heard is that the student has to actually mail the parents, and parent has to give permission for them to move out of the campus. Is that?
So for the undergraduate students,
uh,
we have a gate pass system. It's all now, it used to be what you said, but
okay.
we have now an automated system whereby automatically you can get the parents. The simpler version is for an undergraduate student, unless the parent gives permission, they cannot leave the campus. Very simple. The modality of the giving of permission has become easier with technological platforms and all of that stuff.
So I also believe that the campus is self-sufficient completely.
Completely.
Okay. So there is actually no need to even get out of the campus.
Absolutely. And I won't say, I could not have said that in 2009, 10, 11, 12. But for the last 5 years, the campus has become an absolutely self-sufficient place. It's almost 100 acres. That also means it's a lot of sprawling areas. There are sports facilities. There are all kinds of, grocery type and other type of requirements. There is a food court, a multi-cuisine food court. There is a state-of-the-art Olympic-sized swimming pool. There's basketball, volleyball, and all those sporting things. There's enough space for people to do what they need to do in terms of having a good campus life. But I'm not saying that still, even despite providing all of that, there is a natural desire for people to want to go out, and we are not stopping it so long as we want to ensure that your safety and security is protected somewhat, and that your parents are also conscious of that. In some ways, we want to be responsible for you when you are here on our campus.
So one of the things that I always appreciated your Jindal Global Law School is that you actually have opportunity where parents can visit before they. You always welcome people to come and visit the campus, check all the facilities. Now, given the situation now, okay, when they actually can't visit, is there any shape, form, something in which they
Yes.
can?
So there is a virtual tour of the campus on our website. I invite you to take that tour. Of course, it by no means will do justice to what a physical campus environment is, and that remains a problem. But I can only say one way to handle this is, and that probably is the best way. If you think it will make sense, we are happy to get some of our own students / alumni in Mumbai to do a briefing session for the parents as well. And that's could be giving some more additional information where you can have a candid conversation about things with them as well. But in terms of the physical thing, I'm afraid there are laws that prohibit now for people to move around.
True. But,
Where
but
you are is even more difficult.
but I think that's a wonderful idea. I think that if we can get some students, my own students, I was actually thinking whether I should get a lot of my students are actually studying
Yes,
there.
absolutely.
So that's another one. So now people are worried about questions like, is it a jail type? I can see questions like, are mobile phones allowed?
I will answer that question. Listen, the reason we are conscious of is that we want to protect our students, not just physically in that sense, but also overall their ability to make use of the full facility. So there are no such restrictions about mobile phone and everything. It's only about access, for example. I mean, we have a very liberal and progressive environment on campus itself. Unlike most campuses, I don't want to name campuses here, is that because of the fact that we are a global university, we have faculty members from, nearly 17% of our full-time faculty members are from 32 different countries and regions of the world. On a given day, we host people from around the world. We have students also from other parts of the world. So we are conscious of all of that. This is largely to due to a situation where, because it is a sprawling campus outside Delhi, not in any city like that, it's important to maintain some degree of additional level of safety.
True.
That institutionally we need to. And I have to confess one more thing, Jiju. Indian parents are concerned about it, probably more concerned than they should. So we have two types of parents. Which is that one, parents who are very much liberal about the idea of whenever their children want to leave the campus, they go and they come back. The other, who are much more restrictive, they have themselves developed some rationing model, I suppose. But we follow the parents' instinct on that. So we won't second guess. So it's not in a jail comparison is not appropriate, because we don't make judgment about it.
Correct.
The parents are okay with it, and that's only for an undergrad student. And by the time, by the way, the 5-year student reaches the 4th year, we treat them like a graduate student. So even when within your 5-year cycle, you will have at some point, you will have reached that stage where you no longer need to seek that permission.
Wonderful. I think that addressed two things. Now there are three questions. I think which was in terms of the program itself, which is like the pathway program. That's what people were really interested in. I believe this is the program that gives an opportunity for them to do their Juris Doctor, post their LB. I think if I understand this correctly, and then and opportunities for foreign exchange programs. And if you can throw light on those two things, that'll be wonderful.
Excellent. Um, um, you know, the one of the remarkable things about our collaborative framework is we have three different forms of international collaborations that have direct bearing on the aspirations of students. First, we have what is known as student exchange program, where our students have the opportunity to spend up to one semester in one of the over 100 plus law schools in the world that we have this partnership in the United States, in Australia, and Singapore, Hong Kong, South Korea, and Taipei, China, most parts of Western Europe and other parts of the world as well. These are one semester long exchange programs which our students can pursue. Second, we also have what is known as uh, short-term study abroad program. These are nearly a month-long programs that we have open to our students. In fact, over 200 plus students every year go for them. We have these programs at Oxford University, at Harvard University, at Columbia Law School, at Fletcher School, which is at Tufts University in Boston, and Sciences Po, and many other places. These are credit-bearing programs on specific issues of law and justice that our students pursue up to a month. And the third is what you just asked, which is the dual degree program.
So sorry to just ask that question. This is open for both the 3-year law students as well as the five.
Absolutely,
Okay,
absolutely. I mean, LLM students also, it's technically open, but they are barely there for a year, so
correct.
they won't have a. It doesn't make sense for them to do it anyways. So it's open for all, and the good thing is there are we have created different opportunities in different parts of the world. So it's not like everybody. So we have a fantastic program at Cornell Law School, which is Ivy League Law School, where we have a dual degree program. And what it means is it's a 4+2 or a 2+2 program, where the JD program in the US, which is normally for 3 years, you can do it in 2 years, and you can do 4 years at Jindal, and then you can 5th year you can go on a study abroad program, and then by end of that 5th year you graduate from Jindal, and that will be their first year, or rather their second year. You would get 1 year off there. So you save 1 year at Jindal, 1 year at Cornell. What would take 5+3, 8, would end up taking 4+2, 6, and you save a significant amount of money, and of course 2 years time as well. And the beauty of the dual degree program is, unlike you doing an LLM program, where if you do LLM program, you get qualified into the bar of New York or California. If you do the JD program, you have opportunity to practice across all US states, all the
Just
50 states.
sorry, just to add. So for those of you who are looking at in the US, the law is a postgraduate program. So they complete the graduation and then they do law. Unlike in India, where you have after 12th you can do law. That program that you do, which is the 3-year program in the US, is called the JD program, the Juris Doctor program. So what I believe, as I understand here, is that you spend in this program, you can look at 4 years in Jindal Global Law University, and then 2 years as a Juris Doctor. What would otherwise probably would have taken about 7-8 years, you'll do it in about 6 years. Have I captured that?
You got it perfect, right? It's a 4+2 if you are a 5-year law student. It's a 2+2 if you are a 3-year law student here. Either ways, you get both the degrees. That essentially means that you can you get the Indian law degree and you get the US law degree, fully able to practice in both jurisdictions.
Fair enough. I think about the exchange program, is a fee would be extra for it, or how is
No,
it?
so that's a great question. All these programs, what we've done is we have absorbed the cost in terms of the student not being present here. So, for example, if you're an exchange program, whatever fee you pay here, you can study there. So you don't need to pay anything more there. Of course, you have to pay for food there, but then you don't pay for food here when you're away. You have to pay for your travel and insurance and all of that. But tuition fee, which is the big amount, you don't need to pay. That's exchange. But if you're going for a dual degree program, of course, you'll have to pay to them, whatever, but you would have saved 1 year there. So you still
Oh,
save $75,000. If you are part of a short-term study abroad program, those are all non-semester time. So you, of course, will pay for it. But again, hugely subsidized because we are managing the entire program. And that's where, and unlike the dual degree, which is much more expensive because it's American fees, the interest is a lot more. As I said, 200 plus every year. 35 of them go to Columbia Law School. 35 of them go to Harvard. Nearly 60 plus go to Oxford. Over 25 go to Fletcher. So these programs, another 20 go to Berkeley. So these programs are very popular because they are one-off investment and very useful, very prestigious as well.
wonderful. I think I will not name the national university. So I know some students who are studying in some national university where they wanted to go abroad uh, for a moot court for a period of time, and which they were not allowed because they were forced to. Nobody were willing to sponsor. There are some universities which are very progressive, some national universities, some which are not. And I think that is absolutely wonderful. No wonder you got QS ranking happened. Did not happen out of thin air. Uh, just one more question here, Raj, before we move here. So, what is the process? What's the process in terms of getting into these? And uh, do the students have to do something now? Or
Yes. So let me first tell you,
uh,
Jijo, this Corona and COVID-19 has shaken the entire higher education,
okay, yeah, true.
you including all of us. But one of the things we did, and it's not now, in the early stage of this crisis itself, we were predicting somewhat the scenario that was evolving. As you know, every year, LSAT India exam is the exam that we choose for admission to our 5-year law program entirely. But in 3 year, we use that as well, and we use other tests too. But in 5 year, it was entirely LSAT India. Now, we were expecting at that time, when we started planning, that it will be unlikely for LSAT India to be taken in the way it is normally taken. And I believe that is the case with CLAT and IELTS and all of that. And as we have now hindsight, it was one of the best things that we did. Not now, literally 2.5, 3 months ago, 2 months ago, just when the crisis was emerging, we decided, and we worked very closely with LSAT, and we made sure that LSAT India becomes artificially intelligence enabled, remote proctored, entirely online exam. And there was a very strong philosophical foundations to it. And the philosophical foundation is as follows. With the current state of global health crisis that is prevailing in India and around the world, we were recognizing that this is not an option for us. It's an inevitable situation. So necessity is mother of invention. If you are put into a crisis of this magnitude, it was downright irresponsible on our part as an institution, or for that matter, organizations such as LSAT, to sit quiet and wait for a miracle to happen, and somehow all students will be able to go into these schools and take up a physical exam with hundreds and thousands of people conglomerating in these places. So we were very sure that this ain't going to happen and we need to do something. That was the birth of the idea of the LSAT India online exam. We were very fortunate that we could pull it off. And I'm very happy that LSAT India is happening in that manner, because there is no other way. Let's be very clear. Some people may have this fancy ideas about somehow miraculously physical examinations are going to happen in the next few weeks. I want to tell all of you, having observed the changing and scenario of this particular virus, every prediction about its disappearance has proved to be wrong. And so let us recognize this. So I want to tell you that all students, who are planning to study law, I would exhort them to take the LSAT India. It doesn't matter whether they ultimately decide where they want to go. Right now, it's an existential question, which is to be able to have an option available for their future. The LSAT India examination is going to be held on 19th July, and I know there was a question about a conflict. We always believe that there is a conflict with some exam or the other. But this time around, the beauty of this exam is that there will be an option for them to do it on another day as well. Because, and that announcement, LSAC must have already done it or should be doing it very soon, where they will do this test on multiple days as well. So because it's going to be happening in the settings of one's home, and it's going to be remote proctored, there is this very good option as well. I still hope that people take the exam, and as I said, people always make their choices as to where they want to aspire, and so people would do that. And any date you pick up, you will always find some conflict or the other. But to safeguard the interest of the students, two things LSAT has done. One, this was done because CBSE announced its own examinations to be the 15th of July. So some, gap was given. And the second was that since it's at home and there may be potential conflict, multiple days of that administration of the exam will take place.
So I think keeping the option open is something that I will always advise. Okay, so for example, there is no reason why you won't take a test. Okay, so even if you don't want to join a college, at least take the test and you can at least decide later. So keeping all the options open is
I think the reason this becomes important is, Joe, every year, particularly from Bombay, but also other cities, after the process, sometime in July, August, September also, students come back to us and say, you know what, they've joined A institution or N institution or whatever, and then they end up saying that they want to move to Jindal. And we said, okay, fine. So we can consider that. But what about your LSAT? And they said they've not taken the LSAT.
true.
And they become ineligible to be considered for
The
admission.
the worst that can happen, and the worst that happen is people don't evaluate carefully, because I'm sure that out of the 250 odd people watching this, so many of you, the JD option would have heard for the first time. Okay, so they have not evaluated. I'm not asking. I'm not saying that you should definitely go to this school or that school. All that I'm saying for all of you, my students, is that please evaluate. Keep the options open. You still have time till 5th of July. Okay, take the test and keep the options open. There are a lot of students who are here who are taking the test probably next year, and definitely I'm sure that now you'll get a lot more time to think about. A few more questions in this regard, which
I want to tell you, Jijo, this is many
sure.
students may not be aware. This year, Jindal Global Law School has launched a very unique program called the Bachelor of Arts, BA in Legal Studies. It's the first of its kind 3-year undergraduate program for high school students who, for any reason, are not ready to make up their mind that they want to study law and to become a lawyer. But this undergrad degree can do two things. One, it can help them to know a bit of law in a rigorous manner and actually end up studying full-fledged law without making a 5-year commitment to enter into legal profession. If they choose to decide to study law after, they can study the 3-year LLB and become a lawyer. Or, very important, if they choose to go to do MBA or MA or whatever, that option also exists because it's a BA law program. Many American universities, including University of Wisconsin, Madison, and many others, have this BA law program. In India, for the first time, we have launched the BA Legal Studies program.
Wonderful. Uh, so few more questions. I think that we would have probably picked up. I think Anand has already addressed those reservation questions, and there is this question which is there. What was the cutoff last year in terms of admission into? I think we should probably look at the 3-year program and the 5-year program. If
Anand
we can.
answered that question already, I think.
Uh,
Anand, have you answered? Yeah, I think it's if so. I would say the cutoff varies because of the number, but
Correct.
you are above, if you should aim to have a LSAT percentile of above 75 if you absolutely want to be in the first list. But as I said, I cannot tell what's going to be the cutoff because the every year we are surprised by the number of applications. There are people who are actually completing high school in other parts of the world and are wanting to join Jindals. I never thought that will happen. So that's why I cannot say. But if I were you, I will aim for something above 75.
I think that to be absolutely safe, I think 80% plus is something that I
Yes,
would,
yes.
because at the end of the day, percentile is based on number of test takers.
Very true.
Uh, just by looking at percentile, and I'm sure that it'll be very difficult for you to answer what is the score that makes each percentile. I think that information
There's
you.
a very important question from Messi. I want to answer Messi's
Uh,
question.
okay.
Messi is asking, how does Jindal plan to place all of them?
Huh.
Messi,
That that is this question. Yeah. Huh.
I want to tell you in no uncertain terms that we have no plans to place people. We are not in the business of placing people. I have told people, I've been very candid about it. Again, I will, tell you that as a professional degree course law, our commitment is as follows. First, to offer the best quality of legal education that we can ever do in India and beyond. Second, to have the best of faculty members recruited from India and around the world to do it. Third, to provide the best of ecosystem for learning in terms of classroom experiences, in terms of moot courts, in terms of debates, in terms of conferences, in terms of lectures, in terms of the entire experience. Fourth, to provide the best possible internship opportunities for you, including experiential learning, moot courts, and also clinical programs where you hone your skills and to be able to advance your thinking. And the fifth is to be able to bring the best of recruiters from different parts of India and beyond to come and engage with you, talk to you. But we are not in the business of placing people. That is you. So we empower you, enable you, inspire you, facilitate you to achieve your fullest. And we are there backing you up. But if you get a job, it'll be yours.
But I think the point of that question, to be fair, Dr. Raj, is that people will look at outcomes. Okay,
I
the
know.
outcome is a good way to evaluate. So, for example, so you've given the fact that QS ranking will be based on certain outcomes as the
Correct.
base of the parameters. So, what you're saying that the process you have set in place,
Yes.
and then somebody comes there, utilizes the process, and can have a great career. So,
There is a one
uh,
difference here, Jejo. It's like nowadays in business schools that is happening. If
hmm,
you see in top business schools around the world, 30% of the graduating students become entrepreneurs.
right.
In law school in India, I am seeing a very important trend, at least in art school. Over 40 to 50% of them are coming into litigation. So these are not your traditional type of placement.
True,
They
true.
have a different career trajectory. They have a different set of aspirations. They want to be in the court. They want to appear before judges. They want to appear before tribunals. They want to set up their own legal practice. So, in some ways, the placement model, or I would say, the more limited form of placement model where we have, of course, the Amarchand Mangaldas and the Nishit Desais and the Trilegals and the AZBN partners and the, all of those firms recruit from our, law school. And there is a data on it. And I'm happy, I'll ask Anand to share that placement data with all of you. But it's important for you to understand law is a profession like the medicine. And there are professional standards that one need to adhere to. And we, as a law school, our main goal is to equip with the knowledge, skills, and the standards for you to achieve excellence. You may choose different pathways. In fact, one of our very bright Bombay student is a very good example, Mishal Nathani. I'll tell about this story. Mishal studied law at Jindal. Some years ago, he graduated. And believe it or not, he became an entrepreneur. He moved out of law and started a business. And he's doing very well in his business. And I asked him recently about that did knowledge of law help? He said, absolutely, every day to understand regulation, understand licensing, to understand approvals and permissions, and most importantly, to develop a sense of what is right and wrong, to be able to articulate effectively, to have an analytical mind. All of those things, law help. And now what's he going to do? He has got admission to the Harvard Business School, and he's going to go and pursue the MBA there. That's Mishal Nathani for you. So 20% of our students actually, I believe, will enter out of law after their law school education, as they end up becoming different types of entrepreneurs, including social entrepreneurs, people who create businesses, people who impact society, people who enter into think tanks and research institutions. They may or may not do law-related work, but legal education would have helped them.
Let me rephrase this question in a different manner. Okay. So you have, for example, in the year 2009, you started, 2010, 11, 12. So you have quite a few people who are there, out there now.
Oh,
You've got
yeah.
a lot of stories. So
Yes.
is there can you give us some sense in terms of what your ex-students are doing, where alumni are?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Again, I will, Anand, I think you should send that placement brochure immediately to the group. So I will tell you, our students have ended up doing, let's say, the career trajectories are tenfold. There are 10 different things that they do. And 4 years ago, we did a very minute data collection, but we have not done it in recent years. But I'll tell you what are all the opportunities that they do. They enter into the big Indian corporate law firms. That includes Amarchand Mangaldas, Trilegal, Shardul and Cyril Amarchand, Nishit Desai Associates, AZB and Partners, Khaitan and Company, all the top ones. Then they enter into litigation to become lawyers in different courts, including high courts, even sometimes lower courts, of course, the Supreme Court as well. Then they enter into judicial clerkship programs. They work with High Court and Supreme Court judges. Many of them have done that. The fourth is they take up judicial services examination and become judges. Two of our students just last couple of years have topped the judicial services examination in Delhi and in Rajasthan, and both of them are in that. That's the four. Fifth is several of them joined in-house counsel. They began to work in Tata's and Aditya Birla Group and many other companies and corporations as in-house counsel. The sixth is they also work in consultancies, including in Deloitte and Ernst & Young and that type of organizations. That's also, they're not doing law work, very interestingly, but then legal knowledge has helped them to have an analytical mind. That's the sixth. Seventh is our students work in NGOs, NGOs which are sometimes law related, like the Vidhi Center for Legal Policy type organizations, or other types of think tanks and research institutions. Eight is that they completely move out of law and create businesses, the Mishal Nathani type people, but there are many more. The ninth is that they also end up, going into higher education, but with the specific task of coming into academia. They've gone on to do LLMs and then maybe even PhDs and have become professors, faculty members in other law schools in India. And the 10th is purely higher education opportunities. They've got admission into Oxford, into Cambridge, into Columbia, into Berkeley, into many Harvard and many other places. So this is a broad trajectory, the 10 different things that our students have done after graduating out of Jindal.
Wonderful. To address those questions that people asking in terms of which school, I think this is my advice to you. First of all, earn that question. Okay, have the choice. First, have a national university, have a Jindal Global Law School, and then you can ask the question. At this point in time, my only suggestion is that it's an awesome school that you should definitely consider. That's the way I will look at it. And it is the school must have done something good over the years to get to the QS ranking. It cannot get there otherwise. So your job at this point in time is to apply, get in, and seriously look at LSAT-India as a test. Prepare for the test and get there. And then once you have the two choice, then you can ask me, sir, which one? Then I will tell you the real answers. Yeah, that is there in my mind. That I think fair, right?
Absolutely, very fair. And also, I would say that as a test itself, I mean, I have never taken the LSAT, so I won't tell you how it was. But people who have taken the LSAT have told me, many students, that it's an intelligent person's examination. The entire experience of taking the LSAT is very superior compared to other tests. I don't want to mention any names. The thing about whenever I've talked about LSAT, when I say three things to students, they get excited about LSAT. First, I tell that LSAT-India does not have any questions on general knowledge. And that's pretty good. Normally, I get, say, 20% of the students are already clapping for that. And then I say that LSAT India does not have questions on legal aptitude. Another 30%, almost 50% of the class is, excited and are clapping. Then I tell the last big news, which is LSAT India does not have any questions on mathematics, and I get a standing ovation for that. So LSAT has no mathematics, no legal aptitude, and no general knowledge. It tests you on three things: logical reasoning, analytical reasoning, and comprehension. All the three things that they've done for over 70 years to determine how the kind of qualities that are needed to be a good lawyer.
Perfect. Which brings us to the question on LSAT. There is one question that I will answer first. There's a question of whether rough paper is allowed. Okay. And initially, I think LSAT India came out with this communication that there will be a note where they have to type in and stuff. This very clearly mentioned in the site that 2 blank piece of paper is allowed, so that you can use rough paper. Okay. There are certain questions that I will address to you. Certain questions that I think I'll address. First is that the whole thing is about, is it going to be 19th of July, or is there any possibility to go move it's 19th of July onwards? Please, that is something that we have to understand. 19th of July onwards, I think Professor Dr. Raj already told us that there will be a choice for the students to select the date. If I
There will be more dates announced, I'm sure. See, because of the fact that let me tell you this: there is a element of dynamism in this because of the uncertainty surrounding COVID.
Correct.
But
Correct.
lot of it has been reduced because of the home proctored type of an examination. We are not conducting the exam. Having said that, just as you, we will remain very closely in contact with LSAT people. In fact, yesterday I hosted a colloquium with the LSAC CEO and their board of trustees chairman and others. We are in touch with them, and we will relay these issues very quickly. And if there is any uncertainty of any kind, you will be the first to know.
Oh, great. So at this point in time, the test will be from 19th of
Absolutely.
this nobody knows, right? So I think very unlikely, let me put it that way. But so
No,
there is
I don't
but
think postponing is going to happen. I also don't believe so, because
correct.
I have a schedule on that front. And in any case, the postpone, the current conflict is a recent development, but that part of it is mitigated by giving multiple options. So I think that should trigger the whole thing better. If you have more options, then you don't need to get stuck with the date.
The 5 year only, the only entrance exam they have to take is LSAT India, correct?
That's exactly
Huh.
right.
But the 3 year you also allow them to take the JSAT, if I'm right.
That law. That's absolutely right. So this is something which we have done this year, because we believe that these are already students who have attained an undergrad degree, and the level of awareness is different, unlike a high school student. And so they can of course take the LSAT India, but just as we used to use the Delhi University entrance examination before, we have now added the JSAT law, which the good news is available to be taken starting 6th of June, and in the same AI-enabled home proctored examination as well. Details of which will be available in our website as early as Monday, the 1st June.
Okay, so this will be very similar to, in terms of structure, very similar to LSAT.
It's a 90-minute paper. It has 3 sections: logical reasoning, analytical reasoning, and comprehension. A model question paper is, I believe, already on our website.
Okay, so it will be the same structure, but in terms of okay, fair enough. So there is anyone who is looking at a 3 year program, this an LLM, definitely have an opportunity to take the test.
I would encourage all the 3-year aspirants and the LLM student aspirants to take this exam, because you can do it as early as 6th June, and your application process could be just completed within less than a week. Everything is done. You don't need to wait for LSAT examination later.
So this test has got is it outside the purview of LSAC? I'm
Yes,
sure.
absolutely.
Uh.
Yeah.
So another question is about I think the question about test format, will it change? I think the test format, I'll address it. It is going to be 4 sections. Okay, they removed the variable sections in the that used to be there, so
In
it'll
the
be
LSAT,
one.
LSAT, LSAT you're talking about, right?
I'm talking about LSAT now. This is LSAT. I moved out of JSAT as the exam. Two sections of logical reasoning. There is first logical reasoning, second logical reasoning, and there is a section of reading comprehension. Each of the section is 35 minutes each. That's a time test that is there. Any some question about test interface? Are you aware of whether the test interface is friendly in terms of can the students highlight? Uh, so I've seen the US test interface where it is possible for them to use the mouse and highlight, for example, sections of reading comprehension. So would it be very similar to that?
You're
Would you
talking
know?
about the LSAT one?
I'm talking about LSAT now. I'm just talking about LSAT now.
Oh, okay. So the test form, I don't think the format is changing at all.
The format is not changing. That is fourth section itself. Okay, that is true. I'm talking. Would you know anything about the interface of the test, or should we wait for LSAT to come back to us on that?
What I have told them is to provide in the Discover Law page a
Hmm,
very detailed set of information. And I
hmm.
think as late as the next week, they're going to put it. And we will transfer that information to you right away.
Okay. Anyway, they have put in a lot of information available now in the FAQ Discover FAQ site. There are some issues saying that there is AI proctor text. For example, what if the paper flies? Let me explain this question. Okay, so let's say there is an AI proctor test, and obviously the camera wants, like how I'm sitting here. The test do not want this to happen. Okay, for example, I'm using the pen and paper to write. What if the paper flies? And if I get down, and if such an issue happens during the test, how will the test treats?
So
Uh,
let me answer in the most transparent manner.
yeah.
Uh, so, first of all, for a student who is going to pursue this examination in an honest and sincere manner, he or she first should read all the instructions carefully and ensure that there is good faith in adhering to all those instructions. First. Second is that ultimately in any AI enabled system, not just this, it uses technology is an enabler to determine in its own framework how the person is taking the test. It is possible, and that's a very important point which I will make, is if any degree of awkwardness happens in the test, it's not that, and that's very important because and my understanding is if any degree of awkwardness happens in the test, you will get another chance. So you don't fail, but you get a chance. Because the computer system, the AI system, unfortunately or fortunately, does not differentiate between cheating based awkwardness or some of the things that you are talking about, right? Uh, so,
Correct.
so the best and fair way to do that is if the computer does not recognize that the test was done, quote unquote, properly, then you will be given a chance to do it.
Wonderful. And I'm sure that those issues with respect to net going and some other issues happening, I'm sure that the test will take care of all those situations. Caps.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Another question is that what if someone does not have the necessary equipments? I'm sure that you would have thought about it. So you're talking about Windows 8 and above. You would want such a thing. You'd want an attached
One
camera.
of the reasons why, in fact, we also considered and took this decision and also engaged with LSAT is that because it is happening for the first time for us in a way in India, for LSAT India, we have given ourselves enough time. So, and to answer your question, people have to borrow a computer if they need to.
Okay.
People have to get it from wherever they need to. What can we do? Well, that's why we've given time. Now we are sitting today on the 29th of May. The test is happening as late as 19th July, probably 50 days from now. The deadline is 5th July, which is another, 40 days or so. So all of you, all of us have so much time to plan for this. And that is the best we could do.
Okay. That's so that address. Basically, you're saying that do your jugaad. Okay, you have enough time. Huh?
Yes. And follow the instructions.
Follow the instruction and
And any question that you have, in fact, it'll be, you'll do us a service as well. Ask your questions in an email if you have to. You can write to Anand Mishra. And if those questions require more specialized form of answer, we will get that from LSAT formally and even include that in a evolving FAQ as well. And you will do, not only you will clarify your doubt, but you will do a service to others as well.
Yeah, so I've picked up some email address from the website. I hope that
Our
this was
Anand Mishra's email ID is right here in the chat box,
okay.
apmishra@jgu.edu.in.
ggU.edu.in. Also, you can mail it to LSAT India. They have provided the email address as well. But I think that this will be a great one. So so I'll leave this for a screen. Ask you a few questions here. So now for next years and years to come. So I'm sure that LSAT India would go back to paper. If or is
You
it
know
going
what?
to be?
Honestly, let me tell you this.
Huh.
One of the things, I don't know whether how you see this, Gijo. A lot of bad things have happened due to Corona, but one of the things that happened is uh, not a bad thing in that sense. Is all of our ability to use technology, but even acceptability for us to overcome the biases, the prejudices, the reluctance associated with technology. And I do think some things will not change in the future, and maybe we need to become more adaptable to become better in doing that. So I do believe that the sanctity associated with the physical pen and paper examination to take place on one day of the year, there is a case for rethinking altogether. I mean, I'm not saying
So
exams need to happen AI enabled. Maybe there's a case for doing it in centers. I mean, this time around with COVID, we can't do it. But GMAT has been doing it, where you go to a center and you take the test. That type of flexibility could be explored. We could also continue to explore AI-enabled model as well. So necessity is mother of invention, and part of it will stay.
you're basically saying that there will be a new normal after this, and
Absolutely.
then and uh,
I mean, think about it.
yeah.
A lot of students may not be able to physically come and attend some of your classes. Now, imagine we create opportunities for those students. Yes, you come to class and physically attend, but you know what? We also going to give you opportunities for you to, take. In fact, you guys have been much more creative and innovative than traditional universities in the past. And
True.
so, for we will, universities will learn from you how all of you operate and use it to the. I'm not saying we all have to go online. I'm saying blended models of different kinds. Sometimes we will use online, sometimes physical, sometimes both. All those things are out there for us to take it.
So another question is that for so when are you you have a sense in terms of how will you start the course, when, how, the modes, or if
Our academic schedule has always been the same. We start our academic session in August. We are closely monitoring the rules and regulations, including the UGC guidelines, the central government and HRD ministries, circulars, the state governments. Uh, all I can say is let us all remain conscious of the schedule and work towards it, subject to how the regulation and rules permit.
wonderful. There are a lot of questions about LSAT India as a test. Please do understand that Jindal Global Law University is a user of the test. LSAT India is conducted by a different body of LSAC. It is that for the reason which I don't know how you got the decision when LSAT India came to India in 2009. I don't know whether you got them to India or
Got them to India. We got
uh,
them to.
you.
And in fact, there's a reason for it. I
Hmm,
have always been skeptical, and Anand and I written a long article in Live Law about this, that the idea of an individual school involved in setting up of a question paper for an examination, entrance exam, has been fundamentally anathematic to efforts to ensure integrity and transparency of the process. So we have nothing to do with the question paper. We don't know
right.
that. We don't know the questions. We never get to know the questions. We only know the results, and on that basis, we admit students.
That is true. And so we have quite a few questions we can. So there are a lot of questions about the test. So let me pick up a few questions quickly. So one is that about the test, specifically the test, how the test will give you two scores. One is a scale score on the bandage of 420 to 480 and a percentile score. How the 420 to 480 score is put, only LSAC knows. Okay, I believe that. I don't know. I'm sure that GGLS also does not know. What they want, I'm sure that the college is interested is your percentile score,
Right.
and that is easy to understand. I need X number of students, and I will have a cutoff for the percentile. So I'm sure that. Uh, uh, Great. So I hope this been wonderful, and I hope that all our students benefited from you, from the horse's mouth. Uh, and I hope that give me a shout. Yes, this has been a wonderful session. And obviously we'll pick it up also other questions, other questions. I'm sure that I'm there with you guys, right? So you can catch me anytime. And I'm also putting up certain series of videos on LSAT India as a test. I've put up two. I'll share the link with you. I'll put up more question and to give you all the specific answers. And at this point in time, I thank you,
I
Professor
have,
Doctor.
I have three messages to the students.
Please.
One, I want to tell you that you couldn't have decided a better career path for you. The future is law, and lawyers are going to shape the future of our society. Lawyers have been part of the Indian freedom movement from Mahatma Gandhi to Nehru to Patel to Ambedkar. They led the foundations of Indian Republic. I believe they are going to help us build the future of India and the world in relation to protecting rule of law, promoting access to justice, ensuring the smooth conduct of business, and even involved in dispute resolution and conflict resolution. Second, I also think that the possibility to do so much with law is also the times that we live in. Today, crisis of the kind that we are facing has brought out the best and at times even the worst of humanity. Lawyers and the virtue of law being a profession that is supposed to advance the cause of justice, you will be out there in the future at the vanguard of advancing that cause of justice during ordinary times, but also extraordinary and unprecedented times. The third is that I want you to know that lawyers and legal profession is going to be something that will have a far greater risk protection mechanism even in difficult times. So the uncertainty that we are facing today should not in any way discourage you to have any doubts about your future. You are going to flourish as a lawyer, regardless of whichever pathway that you take within the legal profession. So I want to congratulate you for that decision. And I'm sure in the able hands and mentorship of Jijo, you will be able to fulfill your aspirations and goals to go to the best possible school that you have in mind and to do your entrance examination in the best possible manner. Be safe, take care, and in some ways, despite our inconveniences that we face today, we are all privileged to be even being part of this. Always remember that our privilege has enabled us to have greater aspirations. Think about the people who are less privileged than us, the less fortunate than us, the hundreds and thousands and lakhs of migrant workers who are out there just in our neighborhood, who are struggling with uncertainty about their future. The moment you think about them, all your complaints and your inconveniences, your own anxieties, your own doubts about your future should melt away, because we should be fortunate. We should consider ourselves fortunate. We should be grateful. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Bye.
Bye. Thanks, Steve.